What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Hxro Labs Live. I am your host, but I'm on Friends Tech now, so you got to give me a sec to copy this link into Friends Tech, because what kind of friend would I be on Friends Tech if I didn't share this link? So I'm going to push paste. And I'm watching myself. That's super awkward. What's up, everybody? Let me put the hat on backwards. It feels weird. That's better. Well, all right, let's try this again. Good afternoon and welcome back to Hxro Labs Live. I'm your host, RT, Random Task 555 on Twitter. And we just finished up I don't think we did go charts just yet, but I like that you're Johnny on the spot today. Let's go talk a little bit about ZDFs, the old ZDF, 0-day futures. We just had a really good space on X. I still call it Twitter. It's Twitter. And so Gunny was in there talking about ZDFs. I'm excited about them. They're going to be a entirely new derivative product that should encourage market makers to be more liquid and bold because they settle into cash every night at expiry. And because it's a 25-hour future, you basically have a 1 hour rollover period. So it's like a 1 day future, like a 24-hour future, but you want to have some overlap so that you could roll into the position to the next day. And I foresee a future. I'm no dev, but I've seen crazy shit be built. So I foresee a future where there will be a tick box that says automatic rollover. And so through that hour, an algo or whatever could like transition you out of the previous contract and into the new one in some kind of linear way that doesn't destroy you on slippage and fees. And then it could essentially be a 0-day perp where it would just kind of sit perpetually rolling through. And so your funding rate, which they don't have, by the way, there's no funding rates, which is cool. But essentially every day, if you're rolling into the new contract, there would be some costs associated with fees and probably some slippage and maybe even a gap if there was like a big move right at the daily close. And that would essentially come out to like a funding rate of some kind. Cost of carry. Is that what you guys call it? You futures traders? I don't know. So I'm pumped for the ZDFs. I think it's a new product that always excites me. And I just got off a call with a team who's building an entirely new chain infrastructure, which, I know we say we don't need another L1 in the world or another L2 because honestly, they're mostly the same. They're all just saying like we do the scalability trilemma or the blockchain trilemma. We solve it differently. But this new project I just talked to, don't worry, there's no token. They're not launching for another while, but they're in testnet and it's super cool. And the reason I'm saying that is because in times like this, with charts like we're seeing and the the anemic price action, it's refreshing to just be working in the space and talking to teams and talking to builders, because builders don't watch price right now. Like they don't give a fuck. The real ones. The guy I just talked to is so excited about the things he's building, the results they're having on their test net. So I promise you in the future that when it's relevant, that token, that chain will be discussed at length on this channel. But for now, it's like super premature. But I just wanted to share because I literally just got off that call like 10 minutes ago before the stream. So anyways, yeah, nice new merch. Shout out to Kate Cook over there in Chicago, sending out the merch. The back is even cooler. Let's check out the back without ripping out my headphones and making a scene. Oh, the new X. Okay, let's get into the charts today, guys. We're going to talk crypto. Oh man, there's me. I'm on Twitter. Look, I'm on Twitter. I think high time frame is a good place to start. Turn your phones off, kids. High time frame would be a good place to start because it doesn't look very good. And so we want to really frame any kind of analysis with what the highest time frame trend is. And I'm not going to look at the monthly because you know me, I don't like looking at the monthly in crypto. I think that's silly. A lot of red here on the weekly. The trend is still technically up on the weekly, right? Higher lows, higher highs. We are still in higher low territory. But some lower time frames, which typically always change before the higher time frames. The daily I believe the 3-day. Yeah, 3 days kind of down too, right? So the 3-day had a higher high and then higher low and then lower high and broke down in dramatic fashion. So if I had to be a betting man, we talked about this on stream, the idea of like this kind of year in crypto, cyclically speaking, is like half the year wrecking the bears, half the year wrecking the bulls. Have a nice day, blah, 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 happening like, expecting some more bullshit. It's just not the time. It's just not the time to get rich quick. It's not the time to like be balls to the walls long, I don't think. We talked last week, before I turn into a total LARP that changes the story every time the candles change. We talked last week through this about me wanting to be long on a retest of this area, but look what we've got. The retest was anemic. It was brutal. Just stabbed in, lower low. Okay, cool. Risking against this low, there is a trade there for sure. I don't think it's a very good one. I talked about it on stream being like, a trade where I'd expect to lose 80% of the time, but it was okay because in that 80% of the time I'm losing, I would expect, to make enough to make that worth it, even up here at like 5-1, roughly 4-1, 5-1. So there's a trade here, but time in the year, seasonality, what's going on with the Dixie, what's going on with everything else. Like, I don't know. I'm not feeling it. So that's an important thing to consider. We also beating this GAN angle to death. We had a really nice move off of it and we just came right back into it. Market not ready is what it is telling me. So I'm being patient. I moved a lot of things into cash last week because I was in that, I just get the heebie-jeebies sometimes. And so after we closed this candle, I was like, damn, that was not just like a retrace. That was like a full rejection close below. And so I did move a lot of things to cash because like one thing I've learned over the years, I get super uncomfortable if I'm too spread out in too many names and I don't trust the majors. And then I know me, right? I know what I'm going to do at some point. If we did something like this, who cares what the exact path is? But if we end up through here, like I'm not holding blindly through all this shit. I'm just not. I'm too much of a trader at heart. And so seeing that kind of like insta fail, it's like kind of like a soon not yet or whatever. Anyways, so I restored a cash position into my portfolio, maybe 65%. And I'm just very slowly deploying it. The first thing I bought today for the very first time, I've never owned any Unibot, but I did buy some today. It is also premature. I think this one's a little early, but I told myself that I would buy the 702. I missed it. And then it came in again today. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to pick some up. Nothing crazy, not life-changing amounts, but I definitely wanted to start building a position. I don't think the bot meta is dead. I believe in it just as much as I did up here and up here, but now I have a trade. Now I have a position I can take in an area where I feel like I'd be comfortable adding as it goes lower. Not like every tick, but I'll definitely fire, like I'll look to fire another slug if we move lower. I mean, the area where I would get concerned about Unibot is like sub $40. Sub $40 for any prolonged period of time, like a daily close, would be uncomfortable from a technical point of view. So as you can see, that's 50% below here. So I have to size accordingly. And you can tell from my multi-chart, which I shared in my friend tech group, by the way. I'm not going to show friend tech like I think everyone should go buy my coin. That makes my keys makes me uncomfortable. The feeling that I like owe people my time. But I'm messing around on it. My buddy Shilpill, who I work with at Magnus, he gave me the lowdown and he just said, look, man, I just think this thing's got staying power. I think it's just getting started. And I was like, he's like, take my invite code, set it up. And he's been telling me that for 3 weeks. So I finally bit the bullet yesterday. I said, okay, let's get in there, throw a couple ETH in and see what we can do. So I'm messing around on friend tech. I like it. I like it so far. I think it's got stickiness. The idea that when you hold someone's keys, you can just chat with them is pretty cool. If you guys have ever DM'd me on Twitter, you know that I don't respond because I just don't check Twitter DMs. But in friend tech, yeah, I'm like chatting with people. They're like, hey man, watched your stream. It's cool. I'm like, hey. So I just don't want people to buy it thinking that they're like, hey man, you don't even chat in there. It's like, bro, I got 3 kids. I may not be in there next week. But I'm going to check it out for sure this week and try to get into the habit of posting my juicy ideas in that chat instead of just tweeting them out. Anyways, blah, 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 friend tech. So this is the multi-chart I've been looking at for a while. You can't really see house. It's a little bit blocked in the corner, but that's okay. We can pull it up a little more individually later. But the reason I put out this multi-chart is because Unibot has been the leader. Unibot good day, bots go boom. Unibot bad day, bots go boom, the other direction. And so I had this up because I wanted to buy some of these and Unibot, but not really until Unibot looked ready for a next leg. I don't think Unibot looks ready for next leg, but I think it has arrived in a location where I'm interested in its value. And so what I would guess, if I was a guessing man, is that we've arrived here and now we're going to play some degree of this. And then ideally, sometime later this year, we'll see ramping up volume again, buy volume stepping in, kind of like we saw here, kind of like we saw here. It's a really weird magnet tool interaction. So make sure you guys can see that. Yep. So you see how you have ramping buy volume? It pretty much precedes every major move in any asset. So it's a really nice signal. So easy to see in retrospect, hard to trust in live time. But right now we don't see that. So in a way, I broke certain rules of mine by buying today, but mostly I was just trying to stick to my guns. I said through all this, it's okay. It'll hit a reload zone someday. And when it does, I'll look to pick some up. And it's just chilling in here for 4 or 5 days now. So I was like, fuck it. I should buy some. If I was going to be greedy or, really patient, you want to see more. You want to see like get in here and then you want to see it chill for a bit. You want to see a W breakout, then the ramping volume. And that's a way better trade than what I just did right now. I'm being patient with this position, so it's not a big deal. But getting that buy volume and that W, it's going to reduce the wait time. Now there's a tax on this thing. So I'm definitely incentivized not to be like too over tradey on this. So I bought a position today. If it drops, significant amount, 30, 40, 50%, I'll probably double it. And then if it does form this kind of breakout into like potentially the next leg, I would probably double it again. And so I'd end up with my full position at that point. As of right now, I like the look of it. I like it. I like it a lot more than I did up here. I mean, this was the launch of Unibot X, which I deposited some ETH to. I never actually did any trading on it. In fact, I used the bot just to bridge over to base, but it was pretty instant. I mean, the tooling is pretty sweet. There's no doubt about it. So has the fundamentals changed? Has anything major shifted? Not really. There was a team member or somebody well associated with the teams whose Telegram was hacked a couple days ago or yesterday, and that caused some selling. There's hype about Banana Bot and that kind of coming in and being cool. That's probably cool too. But none of that really says like Unibot's not awesome. So I think these are kind of like reload zone tings. These are the narratives you get that bring you to the reload zone. And down here, the less interest there is from mom and pops on Twitter, the better. So with that in mind, I started my Unipop position finally. Took me a long time because I missed it and then I faded it and then I missed it and then I faded it and then I gave up on it. Said, I'm going to wait for you down there. Friend Tech Codes, yeah. Just checking in on the chat because that's a nice thing to do when people came and spent their hard-earned time to watch and hang out. What up, Kevin? Good to see you, brother. Vibes is here. We got the Matador in the house. Welcome, guys. Welcome. So with that in mind, with Unibot, we've got zero-day futures being announced on Hxro. They're saying, and during the space, it was discussed that they're going live this week only through Nolo bot to start because they're the only live DEX access to dexterity other than Open Hxro. So really cool to see. And, keeping in mind that Nolo traded as YOLO on Solana chain as an SPL token before it transitioned to ETH. And so this chart doesn't look like the other ones, right? All these bots came out around the same time. None of them have revisited their lows. YOLO Nolo has not revisited its lows. It looks like it has because the Ethereum token did. But if you look at this, if you could somehow coagulate the YOLO and Nolo charts, this thing is still in an uptrend, a pretty good one. So it's hard. It's kind of a tricky thing, and that's not cope. It's not like, hey, look, it's an uptrend. It is in a downtrend on the ERC20, but you just have to understand the market dynamics that are at play. So, why do things visit reload zones? Why do things, drive to chaos PRZs? Like, there's a flow in the market that is driven by buyers and sellers, supply and demand. And so when you have a group of buyers who are up 100x, there's more selling available. There's more potential sellers, right? Just say, for example, you get something like house. You can see here through this, if you were looking on chain, there's a lot of people selling here who bought in at like $2, $1.50. But there's really decent buy support here. In fact, every time it dips below $3, it gets bought back up. We'll see if that's true again today. It's at $3. Point is, it didn't have to revisit its lows because there's new buyers ready to step in. And there's a certain point where people won't sell because they're underwater or whatever. In Nolo's case, there's still, even at these lows, 65 cents, like I imagine that there was still a number of people in a pretty good profit because on the YOLO side of things, prices were much lower. But again, they're hard to translate because it was a meme coin of like 7 trillion. Now it's like a lot more hardened at 444 million, so 4.4 million. So it's a little hard to translate, but there is a unique market dynamic at play on Nolo. In other words, I would argue it's less bearish than it looks. But that also means it could drop out of this low, out of this range. What is the reload zone if we were to think about, factoring in the Nolo or the YOLO side? I don't know. I think even at 25 cents, there's somebody somewhere that bought it super early on the YOLO side that's in profit, So just be aware of that dynamic. But either way, it's been cooked now since August 15th, lower high. So with the DFKs coming, if there's any heat over there, which I expect there will be, I like Nolo. I'm still a big LP and staker in this thing. I own a bunch of it, so I'm not selling. I haven't been. Just collecting those fees, baby. Build a chart to show that. Yeah, I know. I've been thinking about that. It's not easy. Like, I think I was thinking about trying to do it on stream. Gunny's in the chat. He's saying it'd be cool if we could try to like build a chart that just had the complete history. So let's like, if you're looking at, is this YOLO? Yeah. So we're looking at YOLO. Don't pay attention to the recent bit because this insanity was like to do with the bridge and there was like really low liquidity. So realistically, this is, now that you look at YOLO this way, it's a pretty normal looking chart, right? You have your post-launch hype, you have your Gartner hype cycle, you dip into a reload zone, and then it started to take off as they announced the bridge and as liquidity providers pulled their liquidity to get into the bridge themselves or the bridging contract. So exactly where we are now would be an interesting thing to know. Like, are we trading here? So like technically a bullish retest would be like 40 cents. I don't know. I haven't done that math. I think that's something we should do. So I will take some time out of my day today or tomorrow and actually just try to figure that out. I just like to know because I'm a TA bro. So relative terms, how are we doing really? It's really hard to tell from this chart. It doesn't tell the whole story. But that is 100% why this thing is down more than the others. It's not fundamentals or anything like that. It's just buying and sell in imbalance, which can't be seen on the chart. So anyways, I just felt compelled to explain that because it's important. It's a relative factor or a relevant factor. Now, aimbot is one that I added to this today. I took the bag off, the BAG or TEH bag, T-bag. I don't know. That just seems like a weird one. I don't know anything about it. It got shilled like crazy at the highs, very inorganic looking chart, and now it's back down, but it just didn't smell right. So I took it off and I added aimbot instead. So yeah, coming into here, I really like aimbot from a purely technical point of view. The one of these I own, actually I own all of these except aimbot. But the one I'm most excited about from a technical perspective is Blacksmith token, BS. It had an interesting ride here. There's a funny little story, I'll tell you. So everything is looking good. Let's pull it up on the big chart. everything's looking good. Good friend of mine who is rather smart. He's in some good alpha groups. He gets some good juice, and he really liked this one. He put it on my radar, kind of like here and here. I didn't buy either of those, and then I like bought the first dip here, and then I sold here because I was like nuking everything I owned that I could, So I took a little trade there, made a little bit. Anyways, it was ramping up, like exploding. Even as Unibot was coming off and the bots were coming off, this thing was taking off. So it was showing some unique strength. And then what happened here was actually the dev disappeared. He just ghosted the Telegram, and people started freaking out. They're like, bro, this is a rug, blah, 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 blah. And then he resurfaced here with a long post about how he was just down and out with food poisoning. He's like, bro, I couldn't get out of bed. I thought every day I kept thinking it was going to end. It was going to end. He's like, but I'm better now and I'm back. Now, some people laugh at that. They're like, okay, that's concerning. Either he's not telling the truth, or it's just concerning that a single human getting sick, would be the end of a project. So like, take that as you will. As a trader, I took that as a buy signal. I was like, damn, this thing showed a ton of strength. It's like an AI sniping swap bot, whatever. It showed a ton of strength, actually outsized strength compared to all the rest of them. And then the selling was really caused by what turns out to just be like a temporary absenteeism of the dev. Say what you will about, how good or bad that was, but it just is what it is. And then he's like, hey guys, I'm back. So sorry. So I took that as a buy signal, as did the market that day, because basically right as his message came in, there was some buying. So I picked some up. I actually forgot to pick up this dip, or forgot's a strong word. It was the weekend and I had babies and I couldn't get to my computer actually all weekend, but I missed that dip. So I've got a decent bag of blacksmith. I would call it maybe half of the desired position. So I'm going to keep a really close eye on this. Do you notice something interesting about this chart that's not like the others? Look at this buy volume. This buy volume is crazy, relatively crazy to itself, right? There's just a ton of buying in here. There's no real big sells. Like the one big sell is like here. And I'm half wondering if that was me. Not like I didn't have a monster position, but it's a lower liquidity coin. So that actually could have been me. Who knows? But that's around where I sold some. I don't think that was entirely me. That looks like too much volume, but who knows? It was like 3 ETH, traded into 6 ETH, sold it for 5.5. Like, so I doubt that made that whole candle. But point is, this thing is buy hungry. So the volume to me is signaling that the market, is cooking. Aimbot, same thing. Kind of had new buy volume highs into the highs. And there was somebody in my friend tech group. They mentioned one today that maybe we'll pull up just to show an example of what's not exciting. The chat BT. No, I have to look, but it was a good example, like an inverse. Okay. I don't know. They showed me a chart that basically just did not have nice volume. And I was like, okay, so you see the difference here is key, right? You want to go where there's energy in the market. You want to go where there's big buyers stepping in, where people are supporting your buys. Volume tells volumes. Volume speaks volumes. So this is another one somebody mentioned to me today. I don't know anything about it yet. Bookie bet. But that reminds me, going back to the multi-chart house, there is reason to believe, this candle looks bad, but this general consolidation here, really, there's two ways this is going to go, where it was like big, strong breakout, dip, consolidate, breakout, retest, and go. That's kind of what I'm betting on. I added a little bit to this bag yesterday, down obviously from there right now, but it's super low liquidity. So like a 10K buy would like blast this thing into a green candle. So I'm not too worried. Or the other way to look at this, the bearish view, which is actually what we got on Unibot recently. So not out of the question. Just screwed up my window. Here we go. The bearish view on this would be, we just had a failed breakout and it's just going to form this lower high. And then we really, come in and get into the grease, take out these lows, even though they're not like stop losses and sweeps. Markets still like to do shit like that. And then, prolong this dip and consolidation. It's really hard to tell. I have a free position in this. I got very fortunate to get a good look at this early. Somebody put it in my ear, like down here at like 30 cents. By the time I woke up, it was like 60 cents and I bought some. Actually, this candle came 5 minutes after I bought. It was just a pure luck in that case for my timing. Like I woke up at like 7 a.m., bought at like 7:20, and at 7:25, it was just like bing, something like that. So I have a free position, full disclosure, but I did actually add some yesterday. Possibly I was this candle. Who knows? It's low liquidity stuff, guys. So this is very much like assume loss and hope for win type trading on these lower liquidity tokens. Because the other thing is about house is like I'm skeptical in the sense that they are being the house. So when you place a bet through their sports betting bot, like they're taking the other side of it. If you're making a parlay and you win, they're paying you out, and that's not dev landscape. That's like sportsbook landscape. That's trickier stuff. Now I don't know their background. I have not interviewed them, but my guess is it's an ambitious approach. Sportsbook make money over a long time, but sometimes they get eaten up when public favorites win. So to limit that, I will say they have limited things like to reduce that risk. They've limited things like five $100 bets as a max per wallet. I'm sure they have more systemic risk built in, but I don't know. And I know, sports books are very cautious. It's very complex. Big better comes in on Dallas. You go and take the Giants over at 5 dimes. Like, there's a lot of hedging that goes on the back end for sports books. So I'm a little weirdly concerned that they're just playing the bookie there. However, NFL season starts tomorrow. NBA follows very soon in October. NHL starts in October. So sports betting season is coming, which is why I picked some up yesterday, because I viewed this chart potentially as sort of a consolidation and then a breakout, nice volume. So I wanted to buy that retest, which I did, and it's now underwater because like one guy sold a small amount. It's a very low liquidity coin. So anyways, I'm going to hold it. I'm not going to panic and leave. There's a tax on buys and sells. So my free position was never getting touched anyways. It actually paid out some revenue too. I got like a 3/4 of an ETH for the bag that I had been holding. So there's a rev share there. So I'm just going to hold it. So this is my bot matrix. It's non-exhaustive. There's probably like 10 other bots out there, probably 3 or 4 that are worth looking at. If you have any, share them in the chats. We'll get in. But one of the things I noticed is like, even my friend text, some guy shared a few names, and it's like, that's not enough for me. I got to look at the chart, but then I'm like, I need to know what's going on in there. And that takes a lot of time and research. So it usually takes me like 3 days to build up any kind of conviction on a new name. But yeah, we can dive in. And it is worth noting, going back to Nolo, I'm just looking back at the chat. It is worth noting that I've been printing on my Nolo LP since I posted it. I posted it on day one. Obviously, I was following it very closely. I was part of the YOLO trading, and then I moved it over to the bridge, and I got a little bonus. Like, I've been a good boy when it comes to Nolo, as far as paying close attention, having conviction, because it's built on Hxro Network, and this is my baby. But yeah, it's been printing, dude. It's like multiple ETH probably since it launched have just been, sitting there to claim. So it's been great. And that's honestly very little volume on the actual derivatives. So as those pick up, as 0-day futures, I want to call them DFKs. That's DeFi Kingdoms. It's ZDFs. Suddenly the Canadian Z is super uncool. ZDFs just sounds terrible. So we will not be doing that, Canada. ZDFs. So as they pick up traction, which I imagine they will, there's already been some really interesting folks on Twitter stating that that's a really interesting product. I hope, because thus far, a lot of the Nolo fees that I've been collecting are just on tax, buys and sells, which is fine, but I want to see that derivatives juice flow. So that's the next step for me. Yeah. So Coach Popovic pointed out that the bottoming part around here was something like 100K market cap. So that's pretty low. So I don't think we want to visit that trough. I think the fundamentals have changed at this point. It was like, in my mind, it was a meme coin. I was like, oh, cool, meme coin called YOLO. I think it's like a whole new world now. So it shouldn't reprice that way until it's a failed new product, which it's like can't even possibly be because it's not even at its V1 launch yet. So there's a lot of speculation left in here, and ideally fundamental strength as the derivatives pick up, but we'll let the market decide. Over to you, Pat. I don't know who that is, but this right now is also not a very derivatives friendly environment. Like, look at this. The majors, the higher liquid shit coins, the higher liquid names, this is not a place where people who trade perps are getting famous. Perp traders were getting famous through this big move up. There was energy in the market. The big accounts, they're all talking about their big trades they're making, and they were getting paid. I was one of them. We were getting paid. I'm not a big account, but I was getting paid. Lots of volatility. It's not to say you couldn't short this or long this, but look at the price action, right? On-chain summer is hot. Shitcoining is hot. Derivatives traders, a lot of the ones I know, they're taking breaks. So I think that's a seasonal thing we have to consider too. Like, I look at things like Nolo and I say, why isn't this getting more traction? It's like, well, first of all, it's a leap to move from a UI to a text-based domain. And I get that because I've tried both. But it's also just like, is it the season where all your favorite friends are telling you to like max long Bitcoin? No. It's not even really a time where they're saying max short it. It's like the high time frame bulls are basically saying this is a great general time to be thinking buy. And then like the more hotshot traders, pistol from the hip, they're kind of saying like, not really bullish short term, and also feels late to short it. The good short entries are on these pump days. So if I'm sitting here with an Nolo bot account, which I have, I'm not trading on it right now. I don't have a trade. I kind of want to long. You can see I've got my local reload zone up here. Like, I want to be that guy. But I think there's a really high probability that if I get that long, it's going to be something more like a sweep. And then it's like, screw you and you're long. So anyways, blah, blah, blah. That's my take on the bots. Still holding a big bag of Nolo. I've got a free position in none. I've got a free position in house plus a little add-on last night. I've got a unfree position on BS. And I just took my first position on Unibot. I like this meta. I think this is going to stick around and come back. But my guess is I'm early to the trough on this kind of next leg talk. BS looks like it's ready to rip, but it's a little out of my buy zone for now. But my guess is Unibot has another rip, and it's probably a couple of weeks of troughing before it does that, which means that these can all form bases too and just build out and consolidate. And you know what they say? The longer the consolidation, the bigger the rally. So I'm patient. But the sizing is important, especially because during those weeks, some new meta might emerge and I might want that capital back. And now I'm paying tax to try to sell things to just go and buy new things. That's bad planning. So to think forward on that, I took small size on the new position for Unibot. All right. Rant complete. Just checking the chat here. I want to make sure I'm not having a great conversation with myself, whereas I could be having a great conversation with you. So I'm going to hit this vape while I read this chat. There's only about 10 messages. One sec. Yeah, Kevin pointing out, there's some discussion about L2s. Why aren't they dominating? Look, Ethereum is the hub of liquidity in crypto DeFi. I don't think that's a very, eye-opening statement. And as we go out the risk curve, as things heat up, as fees increase, people move into places where there's more heat. Hot balls of money rolled through AVAX, then they rolled through Solana at one point. Hot ball of money rolled through Arbitrum. Optimism seems to be the flavor of this year with things like Base launching. So we're going to see that again, in my humble opinion. But when things are shitty, when things are quiet, like, it tends to be like back to the mothership. And that's the only place to scrape out a meaningful yield and reduce risk. And unfortunately, it's also the time when like nefarious actors strike. So you see things like hacks. A lot of hacks are just team members rugging. Let's be honest. It's a fact. I don't have any sources or evidence, but it's a fact. things get shitty, people start to see, oh, we're actually not going to make much more off this. Like, let's hack ourselves. Let's lose our phone in a boating accident. Like, let's get out of here. Let's go do something else. Which is why it's so important to vet teams as much as you possibly can. And to literally, you don't always, you just have to kind of take their word for it. So Shilpill, a buddy of mine I mentioned earlier, he'll go into a Telegram and literally just read every single message. So, for example, I was talking to him last night. He has read every single message in the house Telegram since inception. He's like sussing out that guy, the founder, the team, because once you've listened to enough people talk, you can kind of smell the bullshit. And so he's convinced. He's like, no, they seem legit. I have no concerns. So he's given it his stamp of approval, and vicariously through him, I have as well. But I'm still not risking the house. Still not taking out a mortgage on house. Funny that it's called house too, but that was unintentional dad joke in there. It just happens these days. Rarely worth it in my case. I think there's plenty of options for L2 shitcoins. Yeah. So there will be a time to build positions. This could be the time to build positions in L2 shitcoins. I haven't looked at them. I'm trying to keep my focus, as focused as possible. Zero Liquid went live with their shit. So it was like super sell the news. Sort of unfortunate. I've been holding it through this. I only sold a little bit up here, and then I sold a little bit more, I think, here. I'm still holding a quarter of my bag underwater. I don't even know why I held that. You're kind of like, you see the sell the news happening, just get the fuck out. But I had this feeling like, well, I don't want to sell the whole thing. What if it moons? That's typically a losing thought, but I did. So it's a pretty small bag now. So I'm probably just going to cut it at the lows, jinx it back into some life. But this is a cool project. 2.2 mil market cap. I still like it. I just think very quickly, like there's no staking, no rev share, no TVL to speak of. So it's going from the speculation pre-launch phase to the, okay, show us what you actually got phase. And in between, when it's fairly low liquidity, you're going to see some volatility, AKA dumping. So it could be an extremely good buy sometime in the near future if people start to really like their zero thing. It's basically like take your LSD tokens. So say take your wrapped staked ETH, deposit it into their smart contract, borrow ZETH, and that loan gets paid off by the staked ETH that you deposited. In other words, it's a zero interest self-repaying loan where you can then take your ZETH and go do stuff. You can swap it to ETH and go and have more ETH. So it's like you can take some leverage on chain ETH, but you don't have to worry about your collateral getting liquidated because it's non-liquidatable. It's auto repaying. And then I'm assuming it auto repays with that yield. And then someday you could withdraw that collateral or borrow against it again. So it's a pretty cool product. I get the feeling that they don't have like deep network tendrils out there. Like they're not part of the Curve cartel or any other significant whale group that's automatically just going to moon them. So they're going to have to do it very much organically, and it's going to be hard. And we're seeing that on the chart. So the token itself right now is not showing much use or stickiness. But I'm pretty sure there was some kind of like stake your zero and collect some kind of fee. So when that goes live, right now on their website, it says coming soon, but when that goes live, this thing could form a floor and I'll be interested again. In the meantime, I might go puke my last little bit of my bag and just consolidate that liquidity for greener pastures. That's my thoughts on Zero. So yeah, just because I was going through my watch list. Based Markets is my favorite Coinbase chain play over on Base. We could talk a bit about this. It's just a perp DEX. It's over on Base. I had the guys over at Magnus. I lean on them a lot now for research. If I think there's like cool ideas, or I'm saying like, hey, Base chain looks dope. Can you guys, dig into it, see what's hot over there, test some products. It is an absolute blessing to have their help and assistance on things. So anyways, shout out to Hayden if you're watching. He dove into this and he says he really likes it. He says it's favorite product probably over on Base. Now, Aerodrome Finance just went live on Base last week. It's like solidly V33 kind of fork. So there's a ton of farming, right? Farming the Aero token. And Based is one of the projects that was given like an NFT to like pump up their APRs. So I am farming Arrow with based WETH. I wonder if we can go look at Aerodrome. So I'm not just speaking to them here. You know, doxing all my stuff. Oh no, that's too bad. You can't even look at it unless you're connected. So, anyways, but check out Aerodrome Finance on Base. It's going to be around. I think it's like the one kind of DEX there that's been endorsed directly by Coinbase. I don't have evidence of that, but that's how it like feels in my brain. I don't have something to pull up on the spot right now. But yeah, we were thinking like it wouldn't even be that weird for like Coinbase to deploy some capital to support the price of Arrow as it gets farmed into oblivion, as they do on solidly forks. Someday it'll find a floor and it'll probably have some rallies. But if they were to support price to make farming it very valuable, just to drive hype to their chain, not out of the question. Certainly not something we confirmed with Coinbase, but we were speculating that that would be smart for them to do. Don't know if they will. So Aerodrome, one to keep an eye on. It's a farm token. I wouldn't buy it, but I'm farming it. I haven't sold any, so I'm not even farming and dumping. Might be doing it wrong, but I've got half my base paired with WETH over there, and then I've got half my base just holding it. The beta just went live recently, so my buddy is over there testing it. He says it's pretty good, but because it's a closed beta, there's not much liquidity. So those are my thoughts on my watch list here, my on-chain summer. What else we got? That's about it. Oh yeah, HMX looks dope. Really dope. I am coping right now, waiting for it to come back down. So far, it's being nice to me. I missed it at launch, and then I missed it here, and then I missed it here. So just like Unibot, I'm waiting for it to just properly give me the entry I want. I was thinking about DCing into it. I have some funds kind of sitting there ready to go on Arbitrum in a wallet to buy this. But I'm hoping that, Bitcoin being kind of shitty, it'd be pretty unfortunate if this turned out to be an outstanding long entry at this low, because it's the one I talked about last week on stream, and I'm here not taking it. But anyways, if we do get a leg down on the majors, which I think is probable before we get new highs, maybe names like this end up in the reload zones and I can load up. Because that's the ideal, right? Where if I could buy something like this, and then I'm getting my free position before we even make new highs, right? Then I only need to trade it within this range and I get a free position. I get, because this is like a GMX type thing where you kind of want to hold it and then stake it and LP it and do all these things where you're not really selling it to make the money. So I'd like to do that from a position of strength, from a free position. So if I can buy it in here, I'll be in a free, risk-free position before we even break to new highs. So that's why I'm waiting. That's my ideal setup. I've determined not to chase this one for at least 7 or 8 days now. It's slowly coming towards me. So I'll be ready for this. Where can I short Coinbase support bot? Yeah, I don't know. Meatfish wants to short the bot. I'm not aware, but I also know you're just fucking with me. I'm farming some Arrow 2. Airdrop likely. Okay, cool. So Vibes is in the chat. He says, yeah, the Arrow contract could be some airdrops. Good looks in HMX. Yeah, HMX, I've heard from a number of people that it's their best on-chain perp trading experience to date. That's not something I take lightly. I think that's an important thing. We can pull it up here. So, and there's pretty decent yield here for HLP, HMX staking, ES HMX staking, accruing dragon points, which are like multiplier points. So very similar in some ways to GMX if you want like a comp. And then, of course, if you stake your LPs, you can get some payment there. So there's a lot of fees going on. But what's more important is like who's trading on here? What does the book look like? What's the volume? And at last time I checked, the volumes were pretty impressive. So I don't know if we're going to get a loading error on the page. It was an old stale page, so maybe it just needs a little time to reset. Yeah. Okay. Trade. Yeah. So anyways, Another on-chain perp DEX. Keep an eye on like something like a DeFi Llama for volume. But last I heard, the homies staking their HMX and all that stuff were getting paid pretty decent cash rewards. So I'm FOMOing, chomping at the bit, trying to get a position down in this like 7-8 region, which, during the bull seems unlikely. But you know what? All these assets we've looked at today, like, I think we can tell by now, if you watch this stream enough, that this shit comes back. Ooh, you want to see something gross? So you see here how if I was longing against this low, I would have got a fill probably around here. It would have been cool to long the 88.6, but I wouldn't have, or I didn't. Anyways, but then of course, if what are my stop loss? I'm going to hug right here. You want to see something gross? Where I would have traded this, got swept. So pretty glad I didn't take that long. Haha. So this is one of the downfalls of trading on-chain perps, is like, you just get worse things. So I'm really excited for what's going on over on Dexterity and Hxro. I have faith that the liquidity layer can build out an on-chain trading experience that mimics the liquidity and quality of something like Bybit, which I really enjoyed trading on. Binance perps way back in the day when they weren't banned. And even, even BitMEX. Like there was just, it's a hard thing to do, man. Trading perps is hard already. It's made way harder when you take things out like liquidity and you get those kind of like predatory wicks that are on that one exchange. So I welcome solutions. The one I'm most excited about probably coming up is PepperDex. There's another one coming up on Hero Network, SpedX, which I've been hearing some good things about. Obviously Nolo, I've been dabbling. And then Apex is like Bybit's kind of on-chain L2 DEX. That's the one I'm using right now because they have a mobile app, which is dope. So Meatfish says, I just need layer 0 to pay me and I'll be banging a load into Hero staking. Dope. Banging a load. You heard it here first. So yeah, that's it for my like on-chain wars watch list. I'm sure there's a bunch more names. This is just the one I've got. Yeah. What are you guys looking at on chain? I mean, trading the majors right now is pretty friggin' boring. I think overall, like I said before, in the absence of news, expect sideways and down. In the presence of good news, expect pretty quick ups and then retracements, all except the approval. When that approval comes, I expect a pretty aggressive upward move that will start the next leg of a trend or a new trend, depending how low we've gone. And so you want to be like, I want to be super patient because, and I've been saying this all year, even though I'm really bad at waiting for it. January is a very good investment window, seasonally speaking, for crypto. If you took some data and you said, what would happen if I bought things in January most years? You'd have done pretty well. And I think there's some obvious exceptions, like January following a massive bull cycle. So you could take out the places where it's like, well, don't be an idiot. That was obviously not what I was talking about. But like through like shittier times in the cycle, let's go like, fuck it. We'll do it live. Let's do it right now. I don't know if I care that much about that ink. I'm going to take it off. Bye-bye. So like, let's look at what January. Oh, actually, okay. You know what? I want that ink back. We're going to go look at Bitstamp because I don't care about my Bitstamp chart. So let's look, because I say this all the time. It's probably a good time for us to study it. Let's make a January buy window study and we'll just see if I'm full of shit. Because I actually haven't done this study, but a smart man once told me this. So this is well before my time, but let's just see for fun. Okay, so January in this year would have been like probably not great until like May or June. It was actually kind of on a rally. So, okay, 2012, an exception. Let's go find another one. Oh, there was another January here. That's pretty impressive. That would have been a good buy zone right before the big fat move. That's pretty cool. Let's go find another one. Here it is. Yeah, after a massive bull run, that's kind of like your 4-year cycle. Probably not the best time in retrospect. January, not a great one. Yeah, I mean, not terrible if you waited a little bit, but no, it was pre-trough. So, like, do I blindly buy in January? No, but I just think in advance. I'm like, ooh, tax selling season through the end of December. I'm generally bullish in these areas. Can I get a better price by then? And if it does come in, looking a little deeper for setups. But like dollar cost averaging in that zone. Big fat W breakout, consolidate, but that January buy aged pretty well. Wish I could just automatically mark every January 1st. January aged pretty well here, even though it was already up a bit. That was actually right before I joined. I joined here in May 2017. In fact, I think I bought right before a huge dump. So that sucked. Welcome to crypto, bitch. Bitcoin's down 30% overnight as investors panic. That was the headline I woke up to the day after my bank draft cleared and I got my first big buy of Bitcoin. And I say big buy, it was like $10,000, but it was a $10,000 loan. So imagine waking up to $7,000. I was stressed. I didn't know what I was doing. Don't take out loans to buy crypto. I learned that lesson the first day, but it worked out. Okay. So after a bear market, which is undoubtedly what we were in, this is kind of what I was thinking. So you have your 2018. That was a pretty good buy. January trough. Another decent one. I think this would be more equivalent to this January as far as the cycle goes. And then once again, as if by some magic. Oh, no, wait. We're pretty high up there. So, yeah. Anyways, I imagine buying in this January would be somewhat equivalent to this. That's at least how I'm looking at it. So do we get a BlackRock ETF denial? Do we get a Binance shutdown? What's our black swan? Do we need one? Arguably, my friend BTC Jack Sparrow, at least last cycle, he said we did. In fact, he doesn't even call this the COVID candle. He says COVID was just the narrative. It needed to happen from a technical sort of order flow, whatever, like market health standpoint. He says we needed that. COVID was just like the thing that everyone attributed it to. So do we get that this time? I think the two big stories I could see driving it would be Binance having some real trouble. Let's just call a spade a spade. They're not exactly black and white. They're a little bit gray. And some of their executives over this year have been leaving. That was the red flag I failed to acknowledge in FTX, and it cost me dearly. I don't care about fudding Binance. I'm not trying to FUD them, but that's certainly a lurking quote unquote black swan. That wouldn't be a black swan because everyone's kind of talking about it. But it's an event that could cause some catastrophic selling short term. So, thinking out loud, that's the COVID crash. I still call it that. And then on a technical level, something similar this cycle to end the bear market with a stamp of go fuck yourself. You don't get to be long on this bull market. That would be something like this. Anything in that zone on high intensity selling into these levels would be so sick. It would be like a blind buy, probably not with leverage because you don't want to get liquidated, but like 17, 18K, like pretty much insta buying if we come in hot to something like that on bad news. And the only real bad news I can see coming would be like ETF denials, unlikely. Complete Binance implosion, I still think unlikely, but most things like that are unlikely. So let's see, where is that January buy window on here? Also, I don't expect something like that. I'm not saying that would happen on January. That's just a window of time where I think buying into this market would be optimal, purely from a seasonality point of view. So in that sense, I guess this is my window, reload zone in January, because first of all, this looks like shit. It's called a spade then. I might looks like fucking rubbish. It's rolled over. It looks heavy. The weekly trend officially shifts down once we lose this low, if we do. So it's on the precipice of a complete weekly trend reset, which would be pretty typical for bottoming formations, right? You just don't get to have your like up only right away when you want it. That's just, I've been around 6 years, and this is the one thing I've learned. You don't get to have nice things until you no longer believe in nice things, and then you get all the nice things, and you're late to the party. That's just how these markets work. It's uncanny. It's amazing. It's actually really impressive how good the market is getting you offsides and all that. So are you offside? Then we're not done yet. Kind of like that. I find perps easier mainly because I am more disciplined with stops than with spot. I tend to get in the bad habit of letting things ride. Yep. Meat fish, good call, especially on chain. On chain spot positions are like the worst for just getting, like, I've lost an absurd amount on a spot position last year. Because I thought I had inside alpha, like, inside. I don't work for the team or anything, but it was a particular coin that I had gotten wind of something really cool coming up. And I was like, oh man, this is going to be great. And I bought an oversized position given its liquidity. And then I was wrong and I held it way too long. And the dollar for dollar drawdown on that position is like unmentionable. It's disgusting. And you're right. It's something I never would have done on perps. I would have been out in 2% the size of what I ended up losing on that particular trade, because it's like spot and you just think, oh, just hold it. Yeah, 100% agree with you. Thoughts on the bot narrative, Unibot? Oh, Nick Wolf, you're late to the show. I went over the bots. Yeah, okay, good. Hxro Labs mentioned that. Bro, Binance and BT is boring. Stop thinking about it. Yeah, Leonardo Medina. I'm not calling for those things. Just to be clear, I'm not here to FUD your Binance bags. I don't care. I'm just saying these are the scenarios where I could see giving us a nuke just like this. So if you're saying that can't happen, I would say that is misguided thinking. Just like, you're suggesting that me saying it's like boring. Well, fair enough. I'm just looking for reasons, because look, if you say something can't happen, then when it happens, it freaks you out. You're not prepared for it, right? You have to live in this realm of possibilities and probabilities. Binance collapsing this year through this cycle, us not having a new bull cycle until Binance is gone, I think that's extremely low probability. But it would shit people's pants. It would get us these entries in very quick, fast order, and I would want to buy them. Having that mindset going into such an event, if it were to occur, enables me to take action. If you write something off as so improbable that it's just not possible, then you don't buy this. I actually did buy that dip. Not on the day. I was shitting my pants on the day. But since we're talking about reload zones a lot lately, let's look at my favorite reload zone buy of all time. Just a really good example. When you have like a huge shakeout like that, sorry for all the shaky chart movements. I'm just trying to get in nice and close. But after this massive nuke, you can just draw up a reload zone and say, I'm going to get long from there. And I actually got long weirdly close to this. I put it right on here. It was like 45.75. I still remember it because I've kind of locked it into my brain. But like that was, buying Bitcoin at $4,500. But if you asked around during this event, wasn't too much interest in buying. There was a lot of talk of let's wait and see. So that's why I talk about this stuff, dude. I'm not here to fight your bags. I don't care. I really don't. I'll tell you what, though, from the sounds of it, you're not prepared for the pain that I'm expecting to see on these charts. It's not about being hyper bearish, dude. If we just blast higher from here, you'll see me in a month just sitting here like, hey, look at that, the pump chaser zone. Like be prepared for all outcomes. I'm prepared to buy higher. I'm prepared to buy lower. I'm just not really prepared to buy right here. I've come to terms with that. So good to know. Leonardo says the same ones that FUD on Binance and USDT are the same ones that applauded FTX. Yeah, isn't that funny? I applauded FTX. I used it. I traded there. I got rinsed. 75% of my portfolio wiped out. So it makes sense that I would be more willing to acknowledge the possibility that the extremely improbable outcome of Binance going under is possible. If you ask me today, do I think they're going to go under? I would say no. But if you also ask me, like, do you think it's possible that they do, and that do I think that there's powers that be that would like to see them lose their top seat at the table before this thing moves more towards like a grayscale NASDAQ, whatever, like incumbent US based, like, yeah, there's a lot of people with a lot of power and money that would love to see them out of the way. Just saying, not a conspiracy theorist, but to think that there's not some incentives to dig into their books, to unearth their shit, to hamper them, is ignorant. Anyways, I didn't mean to turn this into a Binance FUD thread. I just noticed that there was a COVID crash, and I was curious if we get something fractally similar. And I'm never going to FUD USDT, man. I think the USDT FUDders are balls to the walls, lasagna brain. I think that's just like the most negative EV bet anyone's ever made. I always find it interesting. I've muted the account because it's really annoying, but Bitfinex, it's like 70,000 tweets all about FUDding Bitcoin. 70,000 tweets was a couple years ago, so probably more now, but they're still at it. I see them in the comments sometimes like, this is an account you muted, and I click and I'm like, oh, it's them. And they're just like, yeah, USDT is the biggest fraud in history. I'm just like, bro, really? That's your thing you're spending your energy on? It's crazy. So no, I'm just rambling. Sharing my thoughts. It's hard to do, it's hard to do in between actionable trades. There's certainly a case to take a long here. I just don't think it's going to hit. I think it's going to get stopped out more than once before the long that I want comes. And it's also like not a good short. So that's why I opened with and focused on this matrix, because I think there is some juice in here. I'm active on the chain. But for the majors, it's September. It's like late bear, hopefully. In 2 years, if it's still a bear, it would be very late bear. But cyclically speaking, we're coming into the most opportune time in the market. So I think we can get back to the main screen here, and we'll just talk shop real quick. This is a time when there is nothing more important than focusing on the big picture for the next few years. It's very easy to lose interest in this market. It's very easy to, become, what's the word? Not atrophied, apathy. There's a lot of apathy in the market. So it's a really good time to really like get your ducks in order, whatever that means for you, working out, joining TRI, by the way, learning how to trade. I'll tell you this, I went through one cycle without TRI. I went through one cycle with TRI. That's therationalinvestor.com for those of you who don't know. And yeah, it was night and day. I mean, risk management is just built into my bloodstream now. I don't take, more than 5% risk on trades. I have before, but highly, strongly recommend you consider learning how to trade from a place like that. And their next term, like they run terms, right? September, January, May. So their next term deadline is in like 4 or 5 days. In fact, we're going to have the founder on Thursday. So that's a nice segue to our wrap up. He's coming on today. Oh, Nico C, confirm bull div on the 4-hour MACD. To your question, I saw that. So the 4-hour MACD on Unibot made a lower low, or excuse me, it was like trending higher as price came in and made one more low, and then the MACD flipped bull. So 4-hour time frame, a bit of a cherry pick, if I'm being honest. I'd rather see a daily, but that's what I was referring to on the chart that I posted on Twitter, which was a 4-hour chart. Anyways, TRI signups are coming up. I mean, right now, between now and say March is the deadline for the BlackRock ETF. I wouldn't be shocked to see the SEC hold it as long as they possibly can. I wouldn't be shocked to see it approved by surprise sometime between now and then and catch everyone with their pants down. I just wouldn't be shocked by anything anymore. I'm a dusty old man and I've been here too long. No, seriously though, it's going to be really hard to play that one the way that you're going to wish you played it when it's all been said and done. So in lieu of that, I'm really leaning more towards a DCA approach in the coming months. I bought a little bit of Unibot today. I don't think that was part of my original plan, but it's a separate sort of trade we're waiting on for a while. And I really do expect this high time frame reload zone to be visited. So, like before we get new highs, that's like Bitcoin below 22K. I think that's just the way I'm seeing it right now. A handful of green candles trading back above 28,000 would change my mind. That would tell me that I missed the best buy and that I now have to get one a little bit higher. That's okay. But in lieu of that, I'm ready to let this thing go sideways and down until there's an ETF approval or some other kind of good news. And then any kind of bad news that happens in between now and then that drives people to sell tokens for cheaper than I think they should is an opportunity that I'm all for. So in the meantime, what am I doing? I'm trading. Excuse me. Obviously, I'm waiting. I'm working out. I'm trying to get in better shape so that I'm more sharp and I'm sleeping well. I started reading the other day again, which I haven't been doing lately. So I'm just doing all these kind of like things that will help me optimize. And I'm researching. I'm on calls. Like I'm working on stuff, but like staying sharp. This is not a time to fall asleep. It's very easy to do, but it's also not a time for me to want to be all in, because then the pain that I think could come before the new highs, that's going to be the shakeout. That's going to be the thing that's like, oh no, now I'm getting out. So I know that from previous cycles is like to expect a little more bullshit than you want. I don't want no more bullshit, but I expect it. So that's where we're going to end the stream today, guys. Hopefully something I said today had a positive impact on your life and on your day. And that's why you come to watch. If you haven't already, like the video, hit the sub, do all the fun stuff. See me on Twitter. Hit me up on Friend Tech. Not shilling my keys, but they exist. I think they're like $60. But yeah, no guarantees from management. Friend Tech's new. I'm just there to test the waters. I'll be back on Thursday with Brian Beamish from TRI, the man, the myth, the legend, as well as Toast Malone and some of the other homies, hopefully. Maybe Jedi, maybe Chewbacca. We'll see. Take care, guys. Whatever you do from now until next time, always play from a position of strength.